Yeah, thanks for having me. Excited to be here. As Yassine said, I'm Clinton Bicknell. I'm Duolingo's head of AI. And probably everyone is familiar with Duolingo, but we have a learning app. People know it mostly for learning languages. As Yassine said, we recently launched math and music. Do check those out. And we also have a Duolingo English test product, which is a test for certifying your English level that a lot of people take to get into grad school in the US or something like that. I've been at Duolingo for 5 years. And over that time, it's also been a pretty crazy journey inside Duolingo. We had an IPO 3 years ago that was pretty successful. And so we've gone from private company to private startup to now we can't call ourselves a startup anymore. We're actually a public company. But that's also been an exciting change. So I lead AI across the whole company, where we use AI for a range of things, as you might guess. Duolingo has been doing AI for a long time, really since the beginning, like over a decade ago. But we use it for we do a lot of personalization with AI. We do a lot of interactive features, and we do a lot. We do the things that like all the apps do, like optimizing notifications and things like that. Even if our notifications are much cuter than everyone else's. And of course, we also use a lot of AI in the speech domain and things like that, things that are more specific to language learning. I think I've been in AI at this point since 2005 or so, something like that. A couple of decades. And I have to say that it's been a wild ride the whole time. AI has just been every year. There's been a lot of exciting advances there. But of course, as everyone here is probably very aware, the past couple of years, it has just gone completely insane. The advances, it's been kind of accelerating over that whole 20 years, but it's gotten so fast. Where it's getting very hard to predict the future. And I have to say that is one of the things that I find very exciting about my job. That it's something that we can't get to work this year, we might be able to get to work next year, right? And that is just constantly the case. The downside of this is also we like build things that sometimes are useless in a year too. That is definitely a very exciting thing, constantly having to change my beliefs about the future. I also am just really excited right now about what some of the latest advances in AI are allowing. So for example, I think they're allowing us to build a much, much richer personalized experience for people in their learning journeys. So, Duolingo learners do about 10 billion exercises every week. It's quite a lot of data. And we use all of that data to basically give us a lot of information about, what each person in the app knows, how their learning is progressing. And then we can use all that to personalize everyone's learning so that people are learning really efficiently and they're also staying engaged, right? They're getting stuff that's most relevant for them. I'm really excited about all the possibilities for personalization, but also, of course, as you're all aware, at a Kickstarter event, interactive use cases are something that have taken leaps and bounds recently in terms of the capabilities, right? You could not have imagined building, for example, a product like Headstarter. Sorry, I said it wrong earlier. A product like Headstarter, several years ago. This just wouldn't have been feasible. My own journey, getting into tech, was relatively unique, as Yassine mentioned. So I was previously to Duolingo. I was a professor at Northwestern, and my research was at the intersection of three fields. So basically, I was doing work building kind of AI models of how humans understand and like learn languages, basically. So this is essentially like at the intersection of AI and computer science with linguistics and with cognitive science, the science of how the mind works. So it was a lot of fun work in that field. I really enjoyed the field, enjoyed my colleagues. But after being a professor for, I guess about 4 years or so, I was starting to realize that I wanted to have more impact than just research papers. And it's starting to feel like, like academic progress can be a little slow, even if the field is moving very fast. And I was also really excited at the time to get to work with, a lot of really large industry data sets and industry scale compute and things like that. So I was thinking about all this stuff, starting to think about maybe I should, leave academia, go into industry, like, work in tech for a bit. Around the same time, as it turned out, Duolingo decided they wanted to start up like a proper AI group. So as I mentioned, Duolingo has been doing some AI really since the beginning, like a decade ago, mostly in like the personalization space. But they decided to build like a proper AI group, and they were kind of recruiting particular people to be founding members of that group. And given how closely related my work was to the kinds of things that they wanted to do, right? Building AI models of how people learn, like that's obviously what Duolingo is interested in doing. And I had actually given a talk there on my research, so they knew me and they reached out to me to be a founding member of the team, and I thought this was the right time, to make the jump to industry. So I will say that I didn't have like a broad job search. I can't unfortunately give like advice on that from my personal experience, but I can definitely talk a lot about some advice from the other side of that process. Because I am someone who does a lot of hiring and does a lot of mentoring new people when they show up. And I would say maybe a couple of advice things come to mind. One of them is I would say like do your research on the company. So like for example, if the company makes an app, like download the app, try it out at least a little bit. Especially if you get beyond like the very first interview, it reflects pretty negatively on candidates when they don't really understand what the company does. And conversely, it reflects really well on the candidates if they like know what the company does and are clearly really excited about it. And that honestly goes a long way. So this is one piece of advice I would say. The other thing, this is actually something that covers both interview stage and also kind of career growth. And that is the theme of collaboration. So modern tech companies are like super like uber collaborative. You are working with other people in teams, and you're working in teams of people who are not like you too, right? Like I don't know, like I don't know how many people here might be in academia, or like you're working on class projects or whatever with partners. Generally, you're working with people who have pretty similar training to you. But in industry, you're working with people who have completely different backgrounds, right? You're doing AI, you're working with a designer, or you're working with a product manager, or you're people who are just completely different than you. And being able to work well with other people is just huge. This is a big part of what companies are looking for in interviews. I mean, obviously, the technical skills are huge. Headstarter seems like a cool tool for that. But another thing that interviewers are always looking for too is they're thinking, is this a person I would want to collaborate with, right? Like in my interaction with this person, does this person I would like to keep interacting with or not? And so honestly, just like simple skills such as like listening to your interviewer, like being kind, just being a genuine person, like things like that. It sounds silly, but like this stuff, it really is important. And I would say also, once you join a company, collaboration is also really critical. So I think a lot of what distinguishes like a new kind of entry level hire from someone who's really like operating at the senior level, maybe after a promotion or two, a lot of what distinguishes them is collaboration skills. How good are you at being able to work with people, like when you have disagreements, like resolving those in a productive way, things like that. Those are surprisingly challenging skills often, but they are actually super important, and honestly, they are maybe just as important as the technical skills for doing the day-to-day work. Because a lot of what you do is technical, but a lot of it is working with other people effectively. And if you can really do that well, that is can be pretty huge for your career. So all right, so this I talked for a few minutes here.
Yeah.
I want
I have some questions. Of course, the chat has some questions as well.
Okay.
A quick question that I want to start off with is I was checking out your Google Scholar. You were like legit. You were into research. So
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, you
what
these days you don't
yeah.
become a professor if you're not, right?
Correct. So did you get any grants? What was that process like? And how did you first run into Severance? You said that they brought you in as a speaker. So what caught their eye? And obviously you're like a mentor to them. Like, oh, look at this guy. He's an AI guy. We got to listen to him. Right? So how'd you become that guy?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, let's see. So your first question, yes, I did in fact, I got one kind of major grant from the National Science Foundation. Yeah, that's right. That's right. There
And that,
was yeah, I mean, it's a really interesting process, honestly, like grant writing, where you essentially, so for those grants, they last like usually like 3 years or something like that. And you're essentially making a proposal for like, here is an important problem that I think I can make a lot of progress on in 3 years. And roughly like, this is the way I'm going to approach it. And this is what I'm going to do for each of those 3 years. And this is why I think like it has a very high likelihood of success, right? Right. Grant writing, it's pretty interesting, actually. It's you have to do like some of the technical work to really make a compelling case that this has a good chance of success. But it's also a lot of a lot of planning and really thinking about the problem differently than you would think about it if you were just like sitting down and trying to solve it right now.
hmm Yeah, absolutely. Well, just shifting gears a little bit because a lot of us are not in academia. We're not that deep yet.
Right. Of
What do you
course.
think about Devin AI? The first AI software engineer? Like, is that even legit, or is it just a cool demo to get VCs and angels, FOMO?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, Devin
Especially
AI.
from a student perspective, right? From a student perspective, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, no, this is a great question. So yeah, I just saw this, this week, I think with everyone else in the world probably. Um, and I think that it can certainly do some impressive things. I think it is very far away from, being able to replace an engineer based on what I've seen. But it can do it can't do nothing, right? Like it can do some useful thing. It can be some little useful things. And I think it's a great question, how the question really is like, how quickly will it get better? Right? I mean, that's kind of the question for all AI, right? Like there is a world in which we get like full AGI, relatively soon, and like it does everything everyone does. Um, but I'm not sure that that's the world we live in necessarily. I think what is much much more likely is that most jobs, including being an engineer, are becoming a big part of your success is how well you can use the tools, right? It's kind of like collaborating with a human, but just getting better at actually collaborating with software, figuring out what are the sub problems that software that like AI tools are going to really help me with, are going to help me solve. These similar, I think, to what people are doing with Copilot now, right? People are figuring out, okay, this is a thing I can ask Copilot to do for me, and it does a pretty good job. This is a thing that when I've asked Copilot to do it, it doesn't do a great job, and I'm just, it's not worth asking.
Mhm.
Learning which things are in which category, I think is an increasingly useful skill. And as all these AI tools get better and better, that is going to be, more and more a part of
Very,
it. I
very
mean, I
cool.
will also say that like if you think about what software engineers do in practice, at a company, it is not just coding, right? Especially as you progress more in your career, a lot of it is more like system design and like higher level thinking and thinking about like what is the right way of designing something. Um, and those kinds of skills, I think, are going to be more and more emphasized, and are going to make engineers more and more productive in that
Very
sense.
cool. I know Armand, you're here. Armand's our next speaker, who is a software engineer at TikTok, who's also hiring. Armand, do you mind if you just give us like 2 more minutes? There's two questions I have to ask Klinton. So Klinton,
Yes,
kind of on that same side, you just talked about software engineering and hiring. I also agree Devin AI is not going to replace us. At HeadStarter, we say that AI is not going to replace software engineers, but software engineers who use AI will replace software engineers who don't. Jason Calacanis,
100%.
he talks about this all the time. If he can improve his employees 20% every month, after 18 months, it's like having two employees. That same person is that productive, right? So about productivity and about hiring. Let's talk about Duolingo's hiring. You guys are about 700 in the head count, 720. I know numbers online may not be fudgy. You did
Yeah,
five.
700-ish is right, at least.
Okay,
Yeah.
you cleared nearly 500 million last year as a public company in subscriptions. Of course, there's costs associated with the company, but if we did per person, that's kind of like 700,000, right? Like that's a lot. You guys are killing it. So also you're hiring. So can you just walk us through how do you source candidates from students or also engineers, and you talked about you hate people when they come randomly without any context about the business. Give us some insight. What's next on the Duolingo roadmap? What's going to go on DuoCon this year? Give us some insight, and also, give us some insight in the hiring process as well.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So, yeah, so excuse me, sorry. Um, so Duolingo is profitable. We are doing quite well. You're right, we have about 700 people. We are hiring, by the way. Do check out our jobs page, jobs.duolingo.com. But I will say that we currently hire about half from university and half from there's also software engineering further down the page. But yeah, we hire about half from universities and about half from industry. So, right now we don't have, our university cycle generally starts, kind of late summer, and is wrapped up right now. So you don't see those jobs here. But they will show up once it gets to late summer. So yeah, I'll talk about that. Yeah, we are hiring. We're not hiring as fast as we were when we were, a tiny startup, but we are still growing quite quickly. In both, especially in our, New York office and in our Pittsburgh headquarters. And the second question that you asked was, like insight about Duolingo, right? As a company, where are we going? I will say that right now we are doing a lot of exciting stuff with AI. You can expect to see, some of the work that we're doing with, real-time audio conversation. That is something that we're working hard on. Being able to have, spoken conversation practice. We are also investing quite a lot right now in our math and music. Those are like two very new subjects that we're teaching that are growing quite quickly, and you can access just in the main Duolingo app as well. And we are constantly bringing out new, like, kind of more personalized features. So right now we've just launched, a session where it will actually, you'll be able to practice, like, what are your kind of like weakest, grammar topics that you're really struggling with. It will sort of automatically highlight those for you and give you some targeted practice and things like that.
Guys. Everything he just said in the last 30 seconds, you have to write down on a piece of paper. Everything he just said. He just said all those features, you have to write on a piece of paper. I'm not going to repeat it for a second time. And Klinton, just one last question, and then we'll give you a very nice and beautiful send off. Thank you so much. I said 5 minutes. We're definitely over the 5 minutes.
Oh, no worries, no worries. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah. So Northwestern professor. I mean, first of all, you went to California and you Google Scholar, grad, as NSF. I did a little bit of NSF too, but I got no money. Let's talk about if you were to start again in the AI, right? In today's world, how would you do it? And what's the fastest way? I mean, obviously, 20-year career, you can't do it it can still take a couple of years, but what would you do?
Yeah. What would you do now? It is a great question. I mean, it's really hard to say, but I would definitely, one thing I would say is that right now, I think like AI has changed so dramatically over the past year that, or the past couple of years, that I think there's a very real chance that I would go try my hand at some startups. There's a lot of really exciting stuff happening in the startup space right now, as you are clearly aware, Yasin. But that said, I also, as someone who went to grad school, I also am, I have a soft spot for that path as well, right? You kind of go like deep, get some really deep technical expertise that really, can carry you through a whole career as well. But those, I think, would be one of those are my two.
So, AKA the fastest way to learn and grow is by joining a startup. Like that's kind of what I heard. because
I think that's,
a
yeah,
startup
I think
is
that's right. I think
on the
that's right.
cusp of innovation, right? Like
Yep.
right now, like the hottest thing in the AI world is Grok, right? It's one of the hottest things, right? Like, it's, what is this Grok thing for voice? And it depends on what type of AI we're talking about. But if you learn your host your own large language model, all that stuff. So, yeah, I mean, like all that stuff, you're just forced to, and then you're gonna have startup friends, right? Startup networking events. You're
Yep.
gonna have startup credits. Like you're just unmatched if you're not in the startup world, right? Access. So.
I think that's probably right. I think that's probably right.
Yeah,
Right.
I'm having a ton of fun right now as well. So I really appreciate the time, Clinton. Actually, before we send you off,
Mm.
from the little context you have of Headstarter and of me, and thank you so much for introducing us to Severin, the founder of Duolingo.
Yep.
What is your thoughts on Headstarter?
Yeah, Headstarter is, I mean, yeah, so I have, yeah, looked at the demos. It seems, obviously we talked a lot about it. It is, I'm honestly pretty amazed. It seems like a really great tool for learning. It is really, taking advantage of the latest in AI, to offer an experience that, again, like this was just like not possible 2 years ago, right? And now, this seems like a very effective way to actually learn about how to, or to improve your skill, I should say, right? At at the moment, these types of interviews, I don't know what else is coming down the road, yes, and what else is it going to help you with?
Thank you so much. Yeah, I also agree. I mean, that's why we're building this. And thank you so much again for your time. Guys, can we just drop some nice advice for Clinton, a nice send off? Guys, please just drop in the chat right here. Like, what did you love about Clinton? He gives some nice insights. If you're playing Duolingo and you get the interview, you should not fail it right away. He gave a lot of good context here. So, Clinton, again, we love you made it here. We hope this is not the last time that we have time with you. So, thank you so
Yeah,
much.
thank you so much for the invite. Happy to be here. And yeah, and I should say, Duolingo is also a pretty great place for your career. We're not exactly a startup anymore, but we are doing a lot of exciting stuff, but with a little bit more scale. So there's some
Absolutely.
cons
So
there.
there's a lot of goodies, support, coaching, mentoring, growth, and you might run into Clinton in the house.